Good afternoon again, Sharon from England. First things first, as the first day draws to a close, the historian in me must point out, and I cannot proceed without this, that the Indian Republic at 76 has come of age, as many others have pointed out. But given that the world has come to India today, as it did 40 years ago too, if you recollect, when India hosted the non-aligned movement and the Chogam Summit in 1983. It was a very different Indian Republic then, and India did not punch as much as it does today on the global scenario. Much water has flowed under the bridge. And this year, of course, with the SCO summit and with the G20, and the latter which can already be categorized as a success. That a communique was drawn up in the first 24 hours of a 48-hour summit is admirable, to say the least. And that too, therein 7 paragraphs out of the 83 of the communique have been devoted to Ukraine, with Prime Minister Modi pointedly recollecting what he mentioned at Samarkand, September 2022, that today's era is not an era of war. That was an acknowledgement to Putin and the closest that the Indian Republic has come to taking a stance against Moscow. And please remember that there has been tacit understanding in Washington, London, Berlin and Paris right through all these months since the war commenced last year on 24th February, due to India's arrangements, defense arrangements and midlife maintenance of equipment from Moscow, and of course purchases of fuel. And they have tacitly acknowledged it and not gone after India on that, because obviously they don't want to get on India's wrong side. And partly it is also to wean India away from China, and that India is a better bet than China. And at G20, it must be pointed out that it is a clear message to Beijing that this is a forum which has security promises and that India will be counted upon, and others too, such as Vietnam, for where President Biden departs on conclusion of the summit tomorrow. He leaves for Hanoi, and Sharon, in all probability, and this is important to note, there might be inked a strategic comprehensive dialogue partnership with Vietnam between Washington and Hanoi, which tells you how the world has come full circle after the Cold War and the Vietnam War. And Vietnam is robustly standing up to China, which is in itself something admirable to note. Not to mention war games between which Russia and China conducted off the coast of Japan a month ago too. And if the comprehensive agreement with Hanoi goes through, Sharon, I can tell you that Washington will also have another one with Canberra and Tokyo, which will further ramp up already cooperation going on with AUKUS that is already in place as we speak. President Xi's snubs are symbolic at best and can be ignored because he is at home reeling under youth unemployment at 21%, a property slump, deflation since 2021, and consumer confidence at an all-time low. And it would be something if the Chinese economy by fiscal 2023 even reaches 3% growth in the next few months. But putting that aside, what does the Semitic alternative show? The SCO, which is nothing but a talking shop consisting of unrepresentative regimes. And for the world's largest democracy to be in there tells you that nothing could be achieved as such, because China considers the rest of Central Asia as its backyard for finished goods and services and for raw materials like Kazakh gas and the rest. And also President Biden ramping up further funding for the Ukraine war is a message to the global south that the US is not going to walk away, and this is not an Afghan scenario, and it is in for the long haul, and it will stand by on security guarantees. But moving that aside, your guest in Delhi mentioned about 2006, and the other guest, the Indian guest, perceptibly pointed out about convergence. Well, I want to talk about 1986 and divergence. When I say 1986, I refer to Gorbachev's state visit when he point-blankly told Rajiv Gandhi that in any Sino-Indian showdown, Moscow could not be counted upon to help India. And remember, relations were far rosier during the Cold War era. But Gorbachev was not
going back to 1962.
No, I'm talking about 1986, when Gorbachev told Rajiv Gandhi that we will not help if any future war takes place with India. So India has factored that in as such, and will continue to do so. And also since 2019, if you recollect, Indian defense imports for the first time have gone down from 50 to about 45% of Russian hardware for midlife maintenance and purchases as India diversifies, but also indigenous production is ramped up locally to boost up the COVID economy. And you mentioned about the new rail link with the Middle East. It couldn't have come at a better time, Abhishek. Considering that the north-south corridor, Bombay, Bandar Abbas, Baku, Ashgabat, and St. Petersburg, since 2000 has been in limbo. 3 dry freight runs have taken place between St. Petersburg and Bombay's Nhava Vashi port. Nothing has come of it. Iran has not raised the rail lines. Armenia and Georgia are getting nowhere, to say nothing of the war, and with Russia's economy in complete hawk to China. So this will be a westward progress, and although it's on the drawing board, it is something much more promising than what was envisaged, because India had counted on that north-south corridor to happen, but it was a corridor to nowhere.